10 years, 18 films, countless TV shows ranging from the amazing to the actually pretty good,
I'm getting better,
to the frankly unwatchable. $14.9 billion and counting at the global box office, making it the highest grossing film franchise of all time. And it all comes down to this. Hell, even allegedly being accused of treason by an Edinburgh postman can't stop this thing. Long story, the short version, don't mess with Postman Pat. $400 million allegedly in the budget, a whopping 64 characters to put on screen, arguably the most anticipated film of all time, and it's okay. I go as far as to say that it's actually pretty good, but no further. And most of that comes down to Josh Brolin's fantastic performance as Thanos, the most jewelry-obsessed villain since Saruman in Lord of the Rings. His goal is simple: collect 6 MacGuffins that will accessorize his glove and allow him, with a mere snap of his fingers, to wipe out half the universe in a vain attempt to make London's house prices come within reach of the average mortal. It won't. And that's your lot. There are no real subplots or diversions during the film's 2 hours and 29 minute runtime, just Thanos turning up to point A, picking a fight, and then vanishing off to point B to do the same thing again. And again. And again. It gets quite exhausting towards the end. Look, I don't want it to sound like I'm down on this film. I enjoyed it a lot, and not once did I check my watch. The directors took what seems like an almost impossible task and have filled it with booms, bangs, CGI, snappy dialogue, and hardly a single practical effect in sight. I mean, you are the guys responsible for Captain America the Winter Soldier, right? With some of the best hand-to-hand fight scenes and practical effects the MCU has ever known. What happened to practical effects? What happened to us? To the films we were supposed to make? Full of practical effects with CGI used only to enhance the effects rather than replace them. When did films turn their backs on reality to embrace looking like video game cutscenes? And who thinks it looks better? Yes, this film takes us all over the universe, but it moves so quickly that we never get a chance to enjoy the CGI set. A friend of mine walked out and demanded to know if this film was intended for Vine. We are never given a chance to settle in and take in a scene, or even really watch and enjoy a fight. The editing is so quick and the action eventually becomes so repetitive that in the end we just become numb. I mean, hats off to Josh Brolin, because this is his movie and he owns it in a way that that bloke from Justice League can only dream of. His name began with an S, I'm sure. Steve? Simon? Scooby-Doo? Who cares at this point? He makes Thanos a terrifying yet relatable villain, whose goal is monstrous but has a point. Resources are finite and depleting fast. He's wiping out half the universe to give the other half a fighting chance at surviving until they are inevitably wiped out by entropy. Because what is more terrifying than a monster who believes they're right and they have the resources and will to make it happen? He even brings along some friends who are there to provide some variety in the fight scenes, but I don't even think are named in the film proper. Which is a shame, as there's one that's pretty cool. He's the one who hangs around with Doctor Strange and generally seems to be hoping to be cast as the next Hannibal Lecter. At least that's the name he got in my notes. He's also got an army of things that appear in one fight scene with no explanation of their abilities, history, or even explanation of what happened to all the guns that they were using in the original Avengers movie. Even the parademons got more of a backstory than this. And heaven help the person who goes into this without watching at least the last 5 years of MCU films. The TV shows tend to do their own thing, as you will have no idea what's going on, who can do what, and what their relationships are to each other. But this is not a film for you. Also, it's a pretty bleak film with a body count that would impress even Game of Thrones, and whilst it's nowhere near as bad as some 80s movies, this is a far cry from the bright and cheerful MCU that we've gotten used to. Under 8s might be best served by catching it in a smaller screen. I would also like to extend a deep and sincere apology to Mum and Dad's wallets, as this film has 64 characters in it and merchandise to match if my Amazon account is to be believed. Sadly, with so many ingredients in the mix, you don't get to enjoy them all to their fullest. I mean, you could have stripped out at least 20 of them, and I don't think it would have affected the plot in any way, shape or form. Yes, the action is incredible. Every penny of the budget is on screen, and I await with bated breath Avengers 4 next year to see what happens next. But if you put that to one side, then you find this film is like a very expensive Easter egg. It costs a lot, as well as looking and tasting great, but when you get down to it, it's hollow inside, and you've not got as much chocolate as you thought you would. It's a shame as there are some moments here that should pluck at the heartstrings, but as with everything else in this film, these moments are over so quickly, there's no time to be affected by them and reflect on what this fight is costing everyone, as the film is desperate to get to the next sequence, which won't affect you as this film is still desperate to get to the action sequence after that. A 2.5-hour film should not feel this rushed. All the complex heroes that we've gotten to know over the years are reduced to simple archetypes because each one that isn't Stark, Thor, Spider-Man or Star-Lord just gets punted to the sidelines with a few minutes of screen time. Compared to the other, slightly disappointing Avengers movies, this is Citizen Kane, taking us all over the MCU and bringing together every character you can think of in a hyperactive fight scene which raises the game for every other CGI-infested 12A blockbuster. Me? I would have slowed it down slightly, removed a fight scene or two, as well as allowing for more interaction between the characters, put as many practical effects as I can get away with, and kept the coffee away from whoever was doing the editing. But as it is, I definitely think you should see it. It's no masterpiece, and I think it's going to age quickly, but it's the biggest rush I'll probably have in a cinema all year. But what did you guys think, and what has been your favourite MCU film thus far? Comment below and let me know. I'm Daniel, it's been a dunking. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe.